All right, we're going to do things a little differently today. Instead of a big introduction, we're just going to drop you right into an original world smack in the middle of a story. Let's see what you can piece together.
Okay, so here's our entry point. A character named Jeru is speaking, and right off the bat, it's pretty intriguing, right? He's talking about his brother, Atsawin, and he uses that one word, rival. That word is loaded, and it totally sets the mood.
So picture this. It's late. Jaru's driving, and you can practically smell the salt in the air from this coastal road. He's got company, and they're all headed to the airport for this reunion. Something that's been a long, long time coming.
And you can just tell he's smiling as he thinks about it. This wasn't some nasty, bitter rivalry, no. This was that classic sibling competition, you know? They competed over everything. Who was faster, who was smarter, even something as silly as who could scarf down the most Dakiosakos. Their whole childhood was basically one big game.
Then you've got Peppy, who's riding shotgun, and she is hyped. For her, that word rival isn't negative at all. It's like, wow, if this guy is your rival, he must be something special. She sees it as a mark of respect, someone who's on Jeru's level.
But see, not everyone in the car feels that same excitement. In the back, you have Yevena, and even though she doesn't understand all the words, she picks up on the vibe, the undertone. And her one question, koshar, which means angry, just cuts right through. It tells you she's sensing there's way more to this story, something a little more complicated.
And Jeru is quick to smooth things over. He tells her, no, he's not mean. But then he picks this really specific word, fiery. That's such a great choice, isn't it? It's not about anger or being cruel. It's about passion, intensity, a totally different energy.
So that's where we leave them, pulling up to the airport. You've got all this history, this complex brotherhood, all about to come together after years apart. The tension is perfect, and that's where we're going to pause the story.
Okay, so that little scene probably has your mind buzzing with questions, right? What was that language? What are dos Sakos? Where in the world is this taking place? Well, let's pull back the curtain and answer the mystery.
So yeah, those are the big questions on the table. What is that language they're speaking? Words like Nalsha and Kajar, they don't sound like anything familiar, do they? And that's on purpose. The answer is actually the whole point of what we're talking about today.
Okay, here's the big reveal. The world is called Arreqqana, and it's what's known as a conlang. That's short for constructed language, and it's part of a completely made-up culture. And this is the most important part. It is not based on any real-world indigenous tradition. Everything, from the words they speak to the food they eat, it was all invented from the ground up.
So that probably makes you wonder, how on earth do you even do that? How do you build an entire world from pure imagination without borrowing from what already exists? Well, it turns out there was a very clear set of rules for creating Arreqqana.
It really boils down to 3 core principles. First, absolutely no borrowing from real languages. The grammar, the vocabulary, the way it sounds, it's all unique. Second, don't pull from real-world traditions. Their beliefs, their rituals, how their society works, it all comes from a brand new, made-up mythos. And that all leads to the third rule. It has to have a purely fictional history.
Now this is the really clever part. The world still feels relatable, right? That's because it taps into themes that are universal to all of us. Things like our connection to nature, the elements, a sense of spirituality. But, and this is the key, the way it expresses those themes is totally original. So you get that feeling of depth and meaning, but without taking or misrepresenting anyone's actual culture.
This chart lays it out perfectly. You've basically got 2 paths for world building. On one side, you have the Arreqqana method, pure creation. You're inventing your own mythos, your own history, your own words. Then on the other side, you have the option to reference real cultures. But if you do that, you've got a responsibility to do serious research, to understand and acknowledge protocols, and to give credit where it's due. Both ways can work. But Arreqqana shows us just how powerful that first path, pure invention, can be.
Okay, so why are we talking about this? Why does this distinction really matter? Well, it all comes down to something we can call integrity in imagination.
If you're a creator, a writer, an artist, anyone who builds worlds, this is basically your roadmap. Step 1. Start with those big, universal ideas that speak to you. Step 2. Build on them using your imagination, not by borrowing bits and pieces from elsewhere. And step 3, by doing that, you're creating with integrity. You're sidestepping the huge problem of cultural appropriation altogether.
And that's really the main takeaway here.
Arreqqana is proof. It shows us that you can be wildly, incredibly imaginative and also deeply respectful at the exact same time. The two aren't mutually exclusive. You can create something rich and meaningful entirely on your own terms.
So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. If it's possible to build a whole new language, a whole culture, an entire world from nothing but imagination, what's waiting inside you? What original world is in there just waiting for you to build it?